on Global Business. Academics across the world have responded to President Xi's proposals on safeguarding global security and strengthening cooperation. A private survey shows that China's services sector activity expanded for a sixth straight month, but at a slower pace. And temperatures around the world are expected to soar even higher as the El Nino weather pattern is likely to return for the first time in 7 years. Hello and welcome to this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Lily Lu in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping says that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization should maintain unity and coordination to bring more certainty and positive energy to global development. Xi Jinping made the remarks while addressing the 23rd meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the SCO via video link on Tuesday. President Xi said that member states should enhance solidarity and mutual trust, keep in mind the long-term interests of their nations and decide their foreign policies independently. Xi stressed maintaining regional peace and safeguarding common security. He stressed that China stands ready to work with all sides to implement the Global Security Initiative, showing strong support for cracking down on the forces of terrorism, separatism and extremism, as well as drug trafficking, cyber and transnational organized crime. He also stressed practical cooperation. He said China also stands ready to work with all sides to implement the Global Development Initiative, and she welcomed the member states' participation in the Third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. On strengthening people-to-people exchanges, Xi Jinping said that China welcomes all sides to work together to implement the Global Civilization Initiative. He called on member states to make global governance more just and equitable and advance the joint promotion of world peace and to safeguard the international order. There are more than 450 pairs of what are known as sister cities between China and other member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The cities are searching for new opportunities to cooperate in areas including the so-called smart city governance, innovation and development.
As for the agreement between the sister cities of Yerevan and Qingdao, we think it's an opportunity to deepen the relationship. We welcome any relationship, any cooperation, and any work at the state level, at the level of regions, and at the level of cities.
One of the prioritized fields we want to deepen cooperation in this technology because the IT industry in Qingdao is developing very fast. Qingdao also has the SCO Economic Demonstration Zone, and we hope to use this as an opportunity to also deepen cooperation.
Many academics, including those in countries beyond the Shanghai Cooperation Organization members, have responded to President Xi's proposals on safeguarding global security and strengthening cooperation. Take a listen.
These proposals are not confined within certain countries or region and organization. They are about the future international orders. His suggestions are fair and reasonable, and more importantly, in accordance with Russia's goals.
I believe the development strategy and global security strategy put forward by President Xi can work for countries in different civilizations. It totally negates the narrative of the so-called clash of nations brought up by Western elites. For example, the Western countries never paid attention to developing countries' infrastructure funding problems until China came with the Belt and Road Initiative.
We're seeing in China an openness, a willingness to work together with all regions and all countries, regardless of differences, regardless of political, economic systems. China is a country that, because of its culture, understands, right, that these differences are not impossible obstacles, but rather they are a good path to dialogue and to exchange.
The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development has called for more support to be given to developing countries to help them to attract more clean energy investment to achieve green transition. According to its latest report on world investment, global foreign direct investment, or FDI, dropped 12% on the year to $1.3 trillion last year due to overlapping global crises, including high food and energy prices and surging public debt. While showing the global investment decline, the UN body also highlighted the urgent need to support renewable energy investment for developing countries. And the report said that they need an annual investment of $1.7 trillion, but they only attracted $544 billion in clean energy FDI in year 2022. Zooming in on China's economy, the country's services sector experienced a slight slowdown in activity in June due to softer than expected demand, though it continued to expand for the 6th consecutive month. The Caixin China General Services PMI Index, which is a measure of the sector's activity, decreased to 53.9 but remained well above the benchmark of 50, which indicates that there still was growth. Moreover, sub-indices revealed that the sector's export orders and employment continued to recover, and there was an improvement in market confidence. China's Central Financial and Economic Affairs Commission and the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, along with some other departments, have released a guideline to promote experiences of Zhejiang province in improving the ecological environment and people's livelihoods in its rural areas. To create 1,000 explanatory villages in terms of beautiful scenery, farming modernization, and improving farmers' incomes was a move promoted by President Xi Jinping 2 decades ago when he worked as the party chief of East China's Zhejiang province. The project has given rise to thousands of exemplary villages from Zhejiang province, which have benefited millions of farmers, and guideline asked villagers across China to learn from the experiences of exemplary villages of Zhejiang province and make concrete progress in improving the environment, developing industries based on regional advantages, low carbon development, and enrichment of rural people's cultural life. China, the world's most populous country and second largest economy, is home to over 1.4 billion people with a rapidly expanding middle-income population. With an estimated 400 million middle-income earners, China has also become the world's second largest consumer market. Our reporter Cao Zhufen takes a closer look at the efforts made by 2 foreign companies to expand their presence in the Chinese market.
Li Xiaoxiong works for an American home appliance company founded over a century ago. It recently launched new business strategies, including a plan to shift away from selling the same products in China as it does in the US, to creating tailored products specifically for the Chinese market. Although sales figures in China still lag behind those in the US, the company views China as an important market with huge potential.
The US market is our present, while the Chinese market is our future. China's population is over 4 times that of the US, with 400 million middle-class consumers, presenting us with a significant opportunity.
Tyrone Macaulay is the founder of New Zealand's largest game development and publishing studio. He says his company takes into consideration the preferences of Chinese players when developing games, as China is the world's most lucrative gaming market.
Initially, when we started localizing games for the world, it was really just translating the straight text. But for really important markets like China, we've looked to go a lot further, just doing market research to really understand what Chinese consumers want.
In 2022, China's imports of consumer goods were more than double than a decade earlier. And in a population of 1.4 billion with continued income growth, there's still consumer demand waiting to be unleashed.
The purchasing power of our consumers is evolving as our economy develops. In the past, we might have been more inclined towards affordable goods, but now we tend to have personalized demands, so understanding Chinese consumers is crucial.
China's consumer market did take a hit during the pandemic, but it's still enormous and cannot be missed by foreign enterprises, with China's imports of consumer goods reaching over $290 billion in 2022. And with the government trying to boost consumer spending after the pandemic, experts say the market will continue to grow. 曹楚峰 CGTN 广州。
Now, as mentioned earlier, Caixin Services PMI has expanded for a sixth straight month, although at a slower pace. And earlier, we got more on this and brought in Mr. Hong Hao, partner and chief economist at global asset manager Grow Investment Group.
I think even though the number is slightly lower than expected, but I think for the month of June, which is tend to be a lower season for the PMI reading, we're still registering a number that is above 50, is showing that the service sector is still continuing to expand. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And also, in the subcategories, I'll focus on the new order number, especially the export new order number, which is showing signs of improvement, and the general market sentiment as well. So I think today, even though the market didn't like the PMI number that much, but I would say that the market may be reading too much into month-to-month fluctuations in the numbers. I think in general the market is expecting stimulus, and also even though going into the month of May, the property sector seem to be slowing down again, but other sectors continue to perform. Especially, the export sector continue to beat expectation, and I think that is also showing in today's export orders number that is beating expectation and showing improvement. So I would say that those are the more important sector, and also in general the consumption sector strengths, which is being reflected in the service PMI sector, is continue to stay above 50 and showing expansion. So those are the areas that I'm looking at, and also if you look at the forex market. If you look at the non-deliverable RMB forward in 12 months, it has touched a bottom and starting to improve once again. So I would say that many of these improvements are being slowly reflected in the market prices.
And still to come here on Global Business. Temperatures around the world are expected to soar even higher as the El Nino weather pattern is likely to return for the first time in 7 years.
From the 1,035-kilometer railway linking China to Laos, facilitating connectivity and boosting economic growth in the landlocked Southeast Asian country, to the joint China-Saudi Arabia photovoltaic project to harness renewable energy in the oil-dependent kingdom. The Belt and Road Initiative has come a long way since it was first proposed in 2013, complementing the development strategies of partner countries and building on their existing strengths. The Belt and Road Initiative, linking the world in the pursuit of common prosperity for humanity.
Shifting gears, we take a look at China-EU cooperation. China's Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang and European Commission Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans held the fourth China-EU high-level environment and climate dialogue on Tuesday. The two sides expressed their willingness to deepen pragmatic cooperation and better address climate change. Ding pointed out that China has embarked on a series of major measures to ensure that the goal of carbon peak and carbon neutrality is achieved on schedule. China is willing to work with the EU to play a constructive role in the high-level dialogue and further expand cooperation in renewable energy, green and low-carbon technologies, etc. Timmermans says that the EU is willing to deepen cooperation with China in addressing climate change, circular economy, biodiversity conservation, and other fields, and also lead global environmental and climate governance. Now, turning to the European countries, Germany just released its latest composite PMI for the month of June, which encompasses both the services and manufacturing business activities. And for more details on that, we cross over to our correspondent Trent Murray in Berlin. Hi there, Trent. First of all, tell us more about the PMI numbers.
Well, look, I think that the real takeaway message is that there is just a little bit of a slowdown happening. This resurgence that we saw in the services sector in particular in recent months is losing a little bit of steam, although there is still optimism over growth. Now, the official numbers from the Purchasing Managers Index this month showed that it fell to 54.1% in June. Now, that was down from the previous month of 57.2. But the crucial thing, it's still over that 50% benchmark, that 50 basis point benchmark, which means there is still confidence. But what the experts here are saying is that this was always inevitable in many ways, that services were going to catch up with the manufacturing sector, which has also seen its confidence drop in recent months. But on average, companies in Europe's biggest economy here in Germany do still expect growth in the remainder of this year, but they are slightly downsizing some of their expectations as just some of the steam runs out on, as I say, that resurgence in the services sector.
And also, Trent, we know that for some business activities, extreme weather is a challenge. And according to the World Meteorological Organization, the El Nino pattern has caused extreme heat waves globally. How might it impact business activities in Europe?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, two quite interesting reports actually out this week, both that one from the World Meteorological Organization talking about El Nino, as you said, returning. Of course, El Nino often blamed for extreme heat waves and large monsoons and cyclones and hurricanes and the like, obviously having an enormous impact on economic activity, particularly in the Asia Pacific, given it's a Pacific Ocean phenomena. But I thought interestingly as well, we saw this week the European Union's own weather monitoring organisation, Copernicus, has released a big report showing that Europe actually is warming at twice the rate of global averages when you go back to 1980. So in other words, things are heating up here a lot faster than other parts of the world. That has huge economic impacts, of course. You both get excess deaths because of heat-related problems. That hurts the workforce. Pressure on infrastructure, particularly during those really hot days on things like electricity generation, and also just productivity hits, which happen for countries like Germany and the Nordics, which really are not built to handle huge heat waves. I'll just leave you briefly. I thought this really stuck out in the report to me. Actually, last year was the hottest year on record for, look at this for a list of countries: France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, Spain, Switzerland, the UK. According to the EU, the year 2022, the hottest year on record for all of those countries. And there are expectations with the summer just arriving, we could be in for another hot one this year as well.
Well, I hope you stay cool. Thank you so much. That's our correspondent Trent Murray in Berlin. Well, let's continue our discussion on the severe weather conditions due to El Nino and how it will cause considerable disruptions to crop output in the Asia region. Well, Indonesia's palm oil production is likely to decline due to severe drought. Thailand's sugar industry is anticipated to see the first decrease in production in 3 years, and there will likely be a negative impact on the country's rice yield as well. A research organization in Thailand has estimated that El Nino will result in the loss of 60 billion baht or $1.7 billion for the agriculture sector. In Vietnam, heavy rainfall is expected to cause a 20% decrease in the country's coffee bean yield. Could artificial intelligence predict the next big flood or potentially catastrophic fires? Well, the Earth Visualization Engines Initiative, or known as the EVE or EVE, aims to make this a reality by compiling data from wide-ranging sources, allowing governments to provide institutions to take proactive measures to mitigate the effects of climate change. Peter Oliver brings us more from EVE's summit in Berlin.
It's the only planet we have, and it's currently in dire need of help. The EVE Summit is bringing together 180 of the world's finest climate scientists from 29 different nations to try and do just that.
EVE's an effort to try to engage the most powerful technologies to solve the biggest problems. More specifically, it's a way of bringing large-scale computing and AI to bear to help people better understand what climate change really means for them.
Having a computer program predict the effects of extreme weather and climate may seem like science fiction turned science fact, but it also comes with a pretty hefty price tag. To do this properly could cost as much as $2.5 billion a year, but that comes with potential savings in the trillions of dollars.
So if we create enormous amounts of information about possible climate futures and you wanted a tool to help you summarize that for you, like, find me the 15 biggest floods in the next 100 years according to these models in my area, and then it would dial those up and you say, well, what does that look like? And then visualizing that. So it's really a family of AI and visualization tools that would live on this data layer to help people imagine possible and plausible futures.
Chinese participation is crucial to the project. One keynote speaker told CGTN that working together to counter climate change is essential.
Cooperation is very important because what we are facing is a global challenge, and that means we must act together. I think there may not be a common future if we don't cooperate, so we need this kind of cooperation. This can motivate us to innovate better and reduce risk.
Chinese tech is also at the forefront of mapping and predicting weather events that can provide large-scale systems like Eve with the data it needs on a global scale.
China's Huawei has now developed a Pangu forecasting system, which is used for meteorological and marine weather forecasts. And China's Fudan University recently launched a forecasting system called Fuxing, which forecasts climate for the next 15 years.
Compiling this data and knowing which places are at risk is vital amid the growing list of threats we face. According to the United Nations, if the world's temperatures increase by about 2 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, we will see a 5-fold global increase in floods, storms, droughts and heat waves. Knowing which areas are most at risk can be crucial to taking action to reverse the warming. Peter Oliver, CGTN, Berlin.
Now let's get more discussions on the extreme weather and its impact on the economy. We're joined by Professor Zhang Gong, Vice President Research and Strategy at the University of International Business and Economics, Israel. Zhang, always a pleasure to have you on the show. So first of all, explain to us briefly, how do heat waves impact infrastructure and agricultural activities?
Thank you very much, Lily, for having me. It's a great pleasure as well on my part. Now, in terms of the heat waves' impact on infrastructure and agriculture, I think for the most part, it's the huge demand placed on the electricity infrastructure. There's going to be a low spike. And I would say that the electricity companies will be scrambling to find sources of electricity. People will be turning on the air conditioners, and there's going to be a huge demand for electricity. Now, in terms of the impact on agriculture, I think it's mostly an area of demand for water. With the hot weather, there's going to be more demand for water, and unfortunately, there's also going to be situations of drought. And also I want to point out that, Mother Nature has a way of working things out. If there's a drought somewhere, say in northern China, there would be excessive precipitation somewhere other places in China. So, that may cause flood as well. I think your program also mentioned flood. So this is actually abnormal weather overall. And overall, I think it's going to be a cost on the economy. It's not a good thing for sure.
And tell us, John, what do you think are the possible economic gains from the high temperature? How are high temperature changing consumption behavior?
Well, there are companies out there that are pretty happy about the hot weather. I guess, the air conditioning companies are very happy. People are running out to buy air conditioners if the air conditioner is not working. And I also want to point out that in Northern Europe and also, Western Europe, these places being historically, the houses there, the buildings there have been historically equipped with no air conditioning at all. And I think this is probably going to be more of a structural change moving forward. People are going to find out that, year after year, it's not acceptable to have no air conditioning. So I think probably it's a good thing for exporters of air conditionings from China. Chinese companies are very good in making air conditioners. They, have a very large global market share. So that's probably very good news for these people.
And also, John, what are extreme weather events costing the world economically?
Well, historically, we have some experience with El Nino. It imposes a huge economic cost. There's these natural disasters as a result. Some places have droughts, some places have floods, and all impose economic costs on the economy, and as well as potentially loss of lives as well. So I think this is a big threat to human beings, and this is all related to this climate change, for which we human beings are responsible. So I think it's this is one more supporting evidence, one more resounding, one more resounding fact to support that we need to work together on the climate change.
Well, thank you very much, John. I hope it's not too hot over there in Tel Aviv. Enjoy your days there.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was Mr. John Gong from UIBE Israel. Let's move on to some other global headlines that we're tracking at this hour. Russian jeweler Sokolov announced on Tuesday that it has opened its first store in China as access to Western markets decreases and plans to pivot to Asia. And according to the China Passenger Vehicle Association, U.S. automaker Tesla and its main competitor BYD both delivered record Chinese-made vehicles in the second quarter. And the Eurozone economy stalls in the month of June as services growth wanes and factory production falls. And according to data released by S&P today, Eurozone composite PMI in June registered just a fraction below the 50 no-change mark at 49.9, reaching a 6-month low, and the Eurozone services PMI fell to a 5-month low at 52. And besides, Eurozone PPI fell by 1.9% on a month in May. That is lower than expected. And with that, I'm closing out this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Lily Lu in Beijing. Till next time, bye for now.